Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Art and Recap. Today we are reading Lord of the Mysteries, chapter 109 till 112. Okay, so chapter 109 starts off with Royal, Leonard, and Kenley running over to the Chinese gate because Klein alerted them that something went wrong. And that's because the puppet, the misfortune puppet, took a peek out of the Chinese gate to show Klein a drawing, right? And Klein was like, what the fuck? And as protocol dictates, he alerted the Nighthawks that were, waiting at the waiting room, doing nothing but playing card games. So anyway, he alerted them, they came running, and Leonard, it says here that Leonard had trouble stopping, and Klein was reminded of that time Roseanne told him that 3 years ago, Leonard, who just became a sleepless, tried to run down a flight of stairs despite not having adapted to the potion's power, and it caused him to fall and roll down. And when he said that, when he thought of that, I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me Leonard fell down the stairs just running, not even reading a book like in the Donghua? He just did? Also, Roseanne and Klein are such gossip friends. They do like to chat with each other and gossip about the other Nighthawks, don't they, huh? So Klein tells them what happens, and the three of them, Leonard, Kenley, and Royal. You know what? On a side note, was Kenley actually in the Donghua when this scene happened? I just remember Royal and Leonard running over to help Klein. I don't remember Kenley at all. Yeah. The three of them surround Klein, and Klein was like, what's going on? Why are you guys acting like this? Are you guys suspicious of me? Is basically what Klein said. And Leonard was like, no hard feelings, bro. This is protocol. It's just, there was this times, well, sometimes, maybe a couple times, where a Beyonder lost control when they were guarding the Chinese gate, and they rang the bell and then murdered the two companions that tried to help them. So, yeah, we just need to know that you're not possessed in some sort of way, okay? And Klein was like, oh, okay then. I guess it's not too bad, okay? How are we gonna find out if I'm possessed or not? So, what Leonard did was say a prayer to the Evernight goddess, I guess. And when he was saying this, I was thinking, is this a poem? Is he reciting a poetry? But apparently it's actually a prayer. When I was reading that part, a thought struck me. Is it actually possible in this world to pray the gay away? You guys know I'm a Fujoshi, but this is just something I'm questioning, because they pretty much solve a lot of their problems by praying to the gods and goddesses of this world, right? So I'm like, is it possible? So Royal offered to stay with Klein to guard the Chinese gate. And Leonard was like, you know what? Because I'm the most powerful in this group right now, I'm also going to stay just to ensure your guys' safety. And then he ordered Kenley to go up to the reception desk or whatever, to the waiting room, in case the police comes and they need help or whatever, some sort. To waste time while guarding the Chinese gate, Royal, Leonard, and Klein start playing a card game. And while they were playing a card game, Klein casually mentions that, hey, the misfortune cloth puppet thingy, they don't have any living traits, right? And Leonard looks at him and is like, yeah, they don't actually. In like the past 40 years that we've had that puppet, it's never really displayed any kind of living trait. Like, it didn't move like, Annabelle. So Royal asked, do you have any idea why it could possibly start moving now? And Leonard was like, well, I can only deduce that it's been influenced by some other factor. Otherwise, this shit would have been happening a long time ago, right? And the only thing different in the past month within the Chinese gate is the fact that the Antigono's family notebook is there. So it's only because of that, probably. So Klein was nodding along at Leonard's explanation and was like, wow, Leonard, I didn't expect you to be so good at deduction, but that makes sense. And then he said, well, he didn't say it, but he thought this, Typically speaking, being a romantic poet and a person with excellent deductive skills was mutually exclusive. And when I read that, I was like, damn, Klein! That's a little bit judgy, don't you think? Royale, who's been quiet this whole time, was like, Leonard's only like this because he's been into detective novels recently. And then she won the card game that they were playing. And you know what? When I was reading that, I was like, oh girl, please. Leonard was just trying to impress his crush. Why did you have to embarrass him like that? Come on. So Klein then wonders, okay, we now know what happened to the doll, like what made it move, right? But the next question is, what pulled it back into the Chinese gate? And Leonard looks at him a little bit amused and was like, oh, it's probably just one of the defensive mechanisms of the gate. Don't worry about it, bro. And Klein was like, huh? What do you mean defensive mechanisms? Leonard then had to explain to him that the defensive mechanism of the Chinese gate doesn't only consist of buried sealed chambers and a few elderly keepers, but something more powerful and magical. Because, he explained that once the sun sets, the elderly keepers that are in the Chinese gate, they actually live and go back into the cathedral, like the normal cathedral, right? Because the power in the gate is the strongest at night and it's no longer safe for any living creatures. That's why when the captain asked everybody not to enter the Chinese gate no matter what they hear, that's why. He doesn't want them to accidentally die because of whatever power is going on over there, right? And Klein was like, huh, that would definitely be good if the captain didn't forget to tell me that. And then Klein didn't say that. He was thinking that basically. But this is something that Klein said instead. Defensive mechanisms such as the Nexus formation. I have no idea what a Nexus formation is, to be honest, but I'm going to assume, based on context clues, it's something to do with the prayers of the cathedral powering whatever defensive mechanism is in the Chinese gate. Anyway, Leonard name drops Saint Helena and mentions that her ashes are also buried inside the Chinese gate and it's also a part of the defense mechanism, right? And Klein was like thinking, huh? What's the use of Saint Helena's ashes in there? What the fuck, right? And Leonard, being such an observant guy, he realized that Klein was wondering why they have her ashes buried in there. Leonard then explains to Klein, rumors suggest that the skeleton or ashes of high sequence beyonders still contain incredible power. Of course, those are just rumors. Anyway, daytime arrived and Sika came to replace Klein for guard duty. Klein was absolutely exhausted from guarding the Chinese gate, and he looked over to Leonard and Royale on their way back to the Blackthorn Security Company and was like, damn, these two are still energetic. Is this the difference between sequences? And when he was saying that, I was thinking to myself, no, Klein, baby boy, baby girl, my dearest, it's not because of the sequences. I don't think so. I think it's mostly because of the pathway that they chose, because they are both in the sleepless pathway, right? Midnight Poet is like a higher level of sleepless, right? So I would reckon, based on the name alone, that they actually don't need that much sleep, right? Klein meets the captain on his way out, and he gave a summary of what happened basically. And the captain was like, okay, I will send a telegraph to the cathedral. So Klein was like, okay, I'm gonna go get some rest. So he went home, and on his way home, he was like, wait a second, I kind of forgot to tell them something. Like, he forgot to mention the paper that he saw that the puppet was holding and what was on that paper, right? And he's like, how is it possible that I forgot about that? That's like such an important detail. It seemed like someone or something was influencing me from stopping them to tell what happened. So he's like, what is going on? And he was thinking, is it possible that the reason the doll started acting up was because it's my first time guarding the Chinese gate, and that's the reason why it started acting up, because it's me. I was the one guarding the Chinese gate, is what he was thinking right now. So it's like, this is so suspicious. What the hell? I should probably tell this to the captain and the rest tomorrow once I got a proper night's sleep. Right. So yeah, that was how chapter 109 ended. Okay, so chapter 110 starts with Klein on his way home, and he's like, I need to confirm something before I go to sleep. So he sneaks up to his room, after of course making some racket in the kitchen by making himself tea and bread, cause it's at the ass crack of dawn, I'm guessing. And he, I guess, woke up Melissa, because Melissa opens the door to the bathroom and was like, "Welcome home, Klein. Where the hell have you been?" No, she didn't say that, but she's like sleepily rubbing her eyes and saying, "You're home." And Klein was like, "Oh, I need to crash. Don't wake me up before lunch," because again, he just got home from the night shift. And Melissa was like, "Okay, Benson and I, we are going to the church later on. So lunch is going to be late." And Klein was like, "Oh yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine." And he was worried, a little bit worried, because he's like a fake believer of the Evernight goddess, and he's like a little bit worried that if he don't go to church as often as they do, which they don't do, by the way. Benson and Melissa go to church once every fortnight, so every 2 weeks. And Klein was like, if I don't go to the church that often, will I stop getting the goddess's favor? Because he's like, that's really bad, because if I don't get her favor when it's crucial, I might die, basically, right? But then he thought, you know what, the goddess is kind of very chill, especially if you consider the type of things old Neil actually prays to the goddess to, like clearing his IOU and stuff like that. She seems like a very chill goddess and doesn't really care if you're a devout believer or not, right? So Klein was like, well, I guess I am at the church all the time. It's just I'm at the church basement, not the actual church. So does that still count? I'm guessing it does. So while Klein was thinking about this whole thing, I was thinking to myself, is it possible for you to actually believe in more than one deity in this world? Kind of like how they do in Greek mythology. Like I'm pretty sure there are actually a lot of people who don't just believe in one god in Greek mythology, right? Because Klein himself calls himself a fake believer, but at the same time he also prays towards a different god, which is, himself. So I'm like, is it possible? Also, is it possible that some of these deities have have beef with each other, right? So if one of their believers turn over to, I don't know, a different god that they hate, will they take away the blessings or whatever and stop responding to their prayers? Is that possible? So after that little chat with Melissa, Klein went into his room and prepared the ritual that he needs to get to the Grey Mist world. And in the Grey Mist world, we actually found out that that Beyonders have some sort of photographic memory because of their souls. So basically, if they see it at least once, their soul will remember it. It's just that it's going to be into like the ocean of their subconsciousness, and they just have to fish it out with magic, right? So he explained all that, and he tried to divine what the vertical eye that the puppet showed him meant. And he was like, is this the key to the treasure of the Antigonus family? And apparently it was. So he's like, wait, that makes no sense, because Ray Bieber is dead. That means that there's no more heirs to the Antigonus family. Does this mean that the book kind of acknowledged him as the new heir? Because again, he is the only one who interacted with it and lived to tell the tale, right? So he was wondering about that. He was also thinking, how is it possible that the notebook knows there's no more descendants of the Antigonus family? And if Klein shared a bloodline with the Antigonus family, then he wouldn't have committed suicide in the first place, right? So that means that he isn't related to any of the Antigonus descendants. He tried to divine where the treasure of the Antigonus family was, and there was no hint. There was no detailed information. So he's like, okay, let's leave it as is. And then he looks up and sees that one of those red stars was fluctuating again. So he takes a peek at it and was like, oh, okay, so it's the Jotun boy again, and he's praying in Jotun again. But this time, Klein actually understood a little bit of what he was saying compared to the previous one, because now he tried to learn a little bit of Jotun. Some of the words that Klein understood was pray, save, father, and mother. And Klein was like, well, it's good that I understood a little bit more, but at the same time, I can't really help this guy if I don't understand what he's saying fully, right? So he's like, okay, we're gonna push this aside and help you some other time. Klein went back to the normal world, changed clothes, and then went to sleep. Melissa woke up Klein around noon, and Klein noticed that she's still wearing her nice dress and fishnet hat, and was like, oh, are you still heading out this afternoon? You still got plans? And Benson was actually the one who answered for Melissa. Benson, who was also like studying. He's like, oh, Melissa actually is going to a lecture regarding family affairs in the municipal hall, because Mrs. Shaw from next door mentioned it to Melissa, right? And Melissa wants to learn how to deal with daily household issues. And Melissa was like, yeah, I also got Selena and Elizabeth to join me, so she's not alone. And Klein answered them that, oh, that's awesome, that's nice. Maybe one of their lectures is about us needing at least one maid servant. But that was, of course, a joke, right? And Melissa looks at him sharply like, we don't need that. That's a waste of money, right? Because she is very frugal. But Klein told her that we have to invest our limited time into more valuable matters. And I have to agree with that. Because I hate cleaning, but I have to. Anyway, on his way to the divination club, Klein actually stopped by the Blackthorn security to ask Captain Dunes if he got any reply from the cathedral yet, right? And Captain was like, yes, I sent them the letter. They replied that basically they confirmed the theory that Leonard and Klein had about the Antigonus family notebook controlling the puppet, basically, and that they reclassified the notebook into a grade 1, which means that Klein doesn't have the right level, classification, whatever, to use it anymore. Klein was surprisingly chill with that info and was just like, okay, that's fine, and then he left to go to the divination club. And then we cut off the scene and actually see Melissa with her friends at the municipal hall. And I'm guessing that the next chapter is about them. So before we start with chapter 111, I would actually like to announce something. And that is that my commissions are currently open. So if you guys want me to draw something for you guys, my vision is the place to be at. So please feel free to check out my vision, and yeah, let's get on with chapter 111. Okay, so in the next chapter we find Melissa and her friends at the lecture hall, right? And we meet this lady called Xaviera Heda, who is the one doing the lecturing, right? And the lecture is basically about managing the family expenses and what to do if the family is earning like £100 or £200 yearly and stuff like that. And Melissa, she was a little bit nervous at first because she wasn't sure if her family will meet the budget. And well, they do now, because Klein and Benson, their annual salary together, I guess, is like £200. And she feels relief and also a little bit of fear because of that. Relief because, again, she's very satisfied with her current life, right? But at the same time, she is afraid that it will vanish in the blink of an eye and they'll be back at that apartment where they have to share the bathroom with other people. So I understand her fear, but at the same time, it also shows us why she's so frugal. We also find out that in this chapter, there's actually some religious discrimination going on in this world, because Selena, she pointed out that Xaviera, the lecturer, has a badge that points her to being a believer of the Lord of Storms instead of the Evernight Goddess, right? Because all three friends, they're part of the Evernight Goddess religion. They are part of the girl team. Apropos girl team, the Lord of Storms believers, they don't seem to believe that women are supposed to be equal with men. Aside from the fact that they consider the woman to be the angel of the household because they need to make sure that their household is peaceful and that the man can relax in there, they are very sexist in general. Because, okay, so here's what I think. If the man is doing all the work and earning the money all on their own, and the woman is not doing anything besides being at the house, then of course it's like a 50-50 deal, right? So the woman will be taking care of the breadwinner so that the breadwinner can continue to win bread, right? But if it's not that case, if for example the woman is also working, then I think it would be fair for them to work together and manage the household together, right? Or hire a maid, like how Klein suggested in the previous chapter. And if the woman is the only one working, it's to be expected for the man to actually do the household chores, no? Because then the woman is going to be tired, and why would she be expected to also clean the house when the man has not been doing anything, right? I just think fair is fair. You need to have a balance. Now, this isn't where the end of the sexism for the Lord of Storms believers starts or ends. There's actually something worse that they said in this lecture. Can you believe it? So, Miss Xaviera, she quotes a Mr. Lumi that says that females are innately flawed when it comes to intelligence and logic. In that case, unable to judge for themselves whether they should accept the judgment of father and husband as that of the church. So I'm like, what the fuck? And you know what? I am glad that I'm not the only one who thought, what the fuck? Because Melissa and her friends, they looked at each other and was like, sorry, I had to cough. Cough laugh. It's so ridiculous. But they looked at each other and was like, yeah, let's bounce. This is bullshit. Let's go. In this moment, I just knew that they were so thankful to be believers of the Evernight Goddess instead of the Lord of Storms. Because can you believe the shit they are spewing over there? The fuck? So Selena asked if they should go to Harrods together. And Melissa was like, no, I can't. I would like to go home and study and also have some chores I need to do before Klein and Benson returns home. Because Klein is on his way to work today and Benson is going to the library to study. So she's like, okay. And Selena turns to Elizabeth and was like, okay, so shall we just go to Harrods together? Just the two of us. And Elizabeth was like, oh yeah, sure. Why not? And then she turns to Melissa and was like, oh, Melissa, your brother Klein has to work on Sundays? And Melissa was like, yes, he actually rests on Mondays. It's very different from ordinary jobs. And you know what? In this text, it said here that she unknowingly raised her head slightly. And when I read it, I was like, oh, baby girl, you're so proud of your brother. That's so cute. So anyway, we get back to Klein's point of view. Klein is kind of lagging behind because he just feels lazy today. He's like, I don't know if I want to go to the divination club. You know what? Let's do a gamble. Let's flip a coin and see if I should go to the divination club today or not. If it's beneficial for me or not. Otherwise, I'll go back to the house. I'll go back to Daffodil Street and just rest for the day. Right? So he flipped a coin and then saw the result and was like, okay, so this result means that I'm not going to go to the divination club today. And when he said that, I was like, usually you flip a coin, and before you reveal it, you say what it's supposed to mean, right? And it was like, Klein, what the fuck? But you know what? You know what? This is his seer instinct talking to him. Because it was a good thing that he didn't go to the divination club today. Because guess what? Elizabeth and Selena, they stopped by at the divination club to, talk about Vincent Hannes. Because again, Vincent was Selena's teacher, and she felt guilty because he died right after his, a day after her birthday, basically. So she's like, I feel like it's my fault because I took a peek at his magic ritual thing and incantations and did that at my birthday. So she's like, she went to the divination club to divine her fortune. And because usually she just goes to Vincent, right? But because Vincent is dead, the receptionist gave them all the profiles to all of the divination, to all the seers that they have employed, right? And when that happened, I was thinking to myself, oh my god, they're gonna see Klein's Tinder profile. But you know what? I was thinking, should I say Tinder profile or should I say LinkedIn profile? Because technically the LinkedIn profile is more accurate than Tinder profile. But you know what? It's practically the same thing. So when those two girls saw Klein Moretti's name on that profile, they were like, ain't no way this is Melissa's brother, right? Ain't no way. And they asked the receptionist, hey, is Mr. Klein Moretti in today? And the receptionist was like, nah, he's out today. He's not in. And they're like, okay, then let's go find a different guy to divine for us instead. Whatever. So I guess it was Klein's seer ability that prevented him from, meeting the friends of his sisters at the divination club. Because again, I don't remember much in the Donghua, but in the Donghua, Elizabeth kinda saw Klein at the divination club. So she kinda already knew that he was part of the club in the Donghua, but not here. Here in the novel, she doesn't know he's part of the divination club. So it would be kind of embarrassing, I guess, for Melissa. I don't know, because it seems like her brother is working part-time as a seer instead of, focusing on his job as a historian. Because they are saying here at the end that it's a headline that is worthy of like the Intis press, which is like a gossip monger kind of press that Roselle invented, whatever. So she says here, history graduate actually ends up doing divinations over the weekends to make a living. That kind of headline would be in the Intis press. And I'm like, yeah, that would definitely be a blow on their pride. So yeah, good thing that they didn't find out that it's actually the same Klein Moretti that they know, right? Okay, so before we start with the last chapter of this episode, I actually wanted to tell you guys something that happened earlier this week with me and the To Be Hero X fandom. Well, not necessarily directly to me, but let me just tell you guys. If you guys aren't interested in the To Be Hero X fandom and you guys don't even know the show, just skip to the next part, okay? Basically... So I was going on Twitter to post my artwork, like a work in progress shot. I open Twitter, I type in, blah, 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 work in progress, right? And while I was typing, I looked down to the first post that Twitter shows me. And guess what it was? It was a shipping art of X and Smile. Like, I don't care about that ship, okay? Like, you do you, Queen. I don't care. It's not my favorite ship, but it's not really harming anyone, right? And shipping is supposed to be fun for people. So anyway, this person is not a problem for me that they're shipping X and Smile together, right? That's their thing. But what was the problem was the art they shared. It was a fan art of X and Smile as worms. I was like, what the fuck? I really stopped typing, and my brain was blank as it tried to process what I was seeing. And you know what? Smile wasn't even just a worm, he was a pregnant worm. What is going on with this fandom? Jesus Christ. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys to low-key traumatize you with me. Okay. To the person who drew that fan art, Godspeed, I guess. Okay, so we start off chapter 112. Azic's explanation is the title, with Audrey's point of view. She is sitting on a swing overlooking a field of blooming flowers under the sun, while she thought about false walls. Force walls request. Oh my god, that's gonna be a tongue twister for me. False walls. So the person that they want forced to get out of jail is called Shio Derecha. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right because it's very unique. And she was imprisoned because she punched a loan shark, basically. Also, they called the loan shark here a usury. And I was like, what the fuck is a usury? That's a new word. I never heard that before. So I had to Google it. And yeah, apparently it's a loan shark. So I'm just gonna call them a loan shark because, yeah. So what happened was, Shio Derecha was a famous intermediator, and her client hired her to mediate between him and the loan shark, basically because he lent something and was like, I cannot pay this amount because it's ridiculously huge, like the interest is huge. And she's like, okay, then let me do this. So she does her job, and when words just isn't enough, she punched the loan shark because the loan shark actually threatened to kidnap the child and the wife of her client. So she's like, nah, not on my watch. And yeah, and then she's been sent to jail because of that. Force asked Glenn and I guess also Audrey to help her because she doesn't have enough money, I guess, for the legal fees. And Glenn wants to do it the legal way by hiring a lawyer. And the lawyers were saying, we can't have her go walk off freely. We can at least just lessen her sentence or something, right? And Glenn was like, I don't know, okay, we'll just tell that to Force, I guess. And yeah, that's basically it. The lawyers also said that if they want Shio Derecha to be acquitted of all her crimes, they need to have proof of her being mentally unwell. And when she heard that, Audrey was like, that would require her to have a psychiatrist of some sort, right? And then she came to the realization, any Beyonder worth their, power or whatever, they would know about the acting method. And she herself, a psychiatrist, she should be acting as a psychiatrist, right? So she's like, hey, if I need contact with the psychiatrist Beyonders, they are probably acting as psychiatrists themselves, right? So maybe this is a chance for me to actually find out where the psychiatrist guild, whatever are they called again, where they are, right? All the other psychiatrists Beyonders. So I'm guessing that she's gonna try and become a psychiatrist in the future. She's gonna get that PhD. Also, I just looked at my notes. It says here that they're actually the psychology alchemist and not the psychology guild, the psychiatrist guild. I'm like, what am I even saying? And so anyway, Audrey also doesn't think it's wise for Glenn and her to associate with Force and her friend Shio Derecha. And I think that's actually good because, I don't know, Force just seems so sus. Also, I am a little bit worried that Glenn is gonna die in the future. After he became a Beyonder. Like, he needs to traumatize Audrey for character development, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm worried about that. And then before we end her point of view, she actually finds Susie digging around the bushes. Well, not digging. She was sneaking behind the flower bushes. And Audrey was like, Susie, what's she doing there? So she checks out what Susie's doing because Oh my god, you guys know, if you're a dog owner, you don't want your dog sneaking around doing something suspicious because they might be eating something really weird and then they're gonna be vomiting everywhere later on. So I know Audrey's worry. Anyway, she goes to Susie and was like, "What you doing there?" And to her surprise, Susie spoke back. Susie was like, "Hello, how are you?" And Audrey was like, "Holy shit! Susie, since when can you talk?" And Susie was like, "I don't know how to explain this. I am a dog after all." Low-key, it reminds me of that meme, the one that goes, "I'm just a baby." But in Susie's case, it's going to be like, "I'm just a puppy." This is probably the moment where Audrey is like, "What the fuck? I need to tell this to Mr. Fool and Mr. Hanged Man." So she's going to be talking about this at the Tarot Card Club, for sure, for sure. Okay, and then we're back to our beloved Klein's point of view. Klein is actually on his way to the Koi University to have a chat with Mr. Azik because he's like, "There's something sus with Mr. Azik. I just can't prove it." So he's like, "Mr. Azik, can I have a chat with you?" And Mr. Azik was like, "Ah, sure. Let's go for a walk while we chat." So they walk along the banks of the Koi River, and once they were alone, Mr. Azik turns to Klein and was like, "Okay, do you need help with something?" And Klein was like, "Okay, Mr. Azik, I'm going to be frank with you, but what do you see in me? Like, what, or better yet, what can you see in me? Like, there's something with the disharmonious fate thing that made me suspicious of you," is basically what he's trying to say. It says on the text here that Mr. Azik sighed as he laughed. And when I read it, I was like, sighed as he laughed? Like, how do you do that? Do you like... like, guys, how do you do that? How do you sigh and laugh at the same time? It's just like... like, what is that? I say this, but I laughed and choked at the same time earlier. But anyway, you guys try doing that and tell me how it went. Sigh and laugh, okay? So Mr. Azik was like, "To be honest, I can only see the disharmony in your fate. I can't really divine anything else from that." And Klein was like, "But how can you tell? You can't derive that much from divination alone." And Mr. Azik tells him, "No, if you have a high level of divination, you can reach that kind of power, basically, right?" So Mr. Azik was then like, "There are some people out there with special abilities, and I think I'm one of them." And Klein was like, "You think?" And I'm making Klein sound more sarcastic than he is. I don't think he's this sarcastic whenever he's talking to Mr. Azik, to be honest. Or sassy, I don't know. He's sassy in his head, that's for sure, but usually the only person he sass out loud is Leonard. At least I think that's the case in volume 1. I'm not sure what happens in further volumes if he's going to sass other characters more openly. But anyway, Mr. Azik actually explains that he has some sort of amnesia to Klein, and Klein was like, "Huh? Okay, that's us." Mr. Azik also tells him about all the weird dreams he's getting, which is, technically his past life. And Klein was like, "Oh, I'm good at dream divination. Please tell me about it." And Mr. Azik tells him about all the dreams that he's had about being a feudal lord, waking up in ancient coffins, mausoleums, yada yada yada, being a knight, and sometimes a tramp. And Klein was like, I don't know if I can interpret any of those dreams. They're all a little bit weird and very contradictory." So he's like, because also he describes Mr. Azik when he tells about his dream as a raving madman. I'm like, Klein, seriously, please. The man is telling you his deepest, darkest secret and you call him a madman. Sheesh! And then they mentioned the kingdom of Faina Potter and the Earth Mother that they believe in. Basically, the Earth Mother is like death, from what I can read here. She's like, they believe in like a cycle of reincarnation, death, and rebirth kind of thing. Mr. Asic tells Klein that he's not an ordinary person anymore and he possesses extraordinary strange powers, very similar to his. So it's like agreeing that he is a Beyonder, right? But he doesn't know what Beyonders are because his memory has been erased. So yeah. Anyway, that's the end of the chapter, chapter 112. What do you guys think of this chapter? All of these chapters, to be honest? Personally, I think we're starting Mr. Asic's arc, and we already know what happened over there thanks to the Donghua, but I am very interested in all the things that the Donghua didn't explain or glossed over. So, very curious about the differences with that. Also, one thing I noticed is that cuttlefish really like to point out the type of routine Klein likes to do in the novel. Like, Klein always seemed to have the routine of going to the divination club. He's always doing something, right? And cuttlefish likes to point out when he does that. Like, is it in the afternoon? Is it 2 o'clock in the afternoon that Klein goes there? Or is it early in the morning? He really likes to set up that timing, basically. Anyway, before I go, please leave a like, subscribe, and a comment. It helps my channel out a lot. My commissions are open, and my Vision link is down in the description below. Check out my webcomic Dreaming of Aurora if you have the time. And finally, thanks to my patrons, Robek, Vanarik, and J-Vol Jevalitska for the support. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!